Hey, what's up, guys? Today we're talking about Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. What went wrong? The player base is now down to 120 players, so the game is pretty much dead. We can declare it dead and do a post-mortem on the game. Talk about what went wrong, what's the future, what are we going to do going forward, and all of this. But as you can see, before we get into that, my backdrop is a little bit different today. I'm in Barcelona, but more importantly than that, right behind that building, I saw Hans Zimmer live, and it was absolutely amazing. I really recommend you check it out. He played The Dark Knight. He played Man of Steel. He played Batman v Superman. He played all of the stuff we know and love. It was absolutely amazing seeing it live. And so he's touring around Europe right now, and then later this year he's going to be in the U.S. So whether you're European, go see him right now. If you're American, when he gets back, when he comes to the U.S. Later this year, make sure that you go to your nearest city and check it out. It really, really is amazing. Highly recommend. Okay, so jumping into this post-mortem, the update on Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, it now has 120 players live on Steam at any given time. So that is now lower than Marvel's Avengers, which, as we know, Marvel's Avengers was an unmitigated disaster. It lost $80 million. And so with this game, I'd imagine it's right in the same slew, basically. It lost tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. It is an unmitigated failure. It received bad reviews, fans don't like it, and nobody's playing it. Okay. This is so interesting. Like, this game was so weird. Everything about this game was weird. And, one thing that I really noticed is that the response to the game on Twitter versus YouTube is very different. And so far as with YouTube, when I was posting videos about the game, even before it came out, expressing some of my concerns, everybody really agreed with me. Like, I felt like you guys, the people that have been here for years, that, have been with me and watching my videos since Arkham, or maybe slightly after Arkham Knight came out or whatever, we all kind of had the same opinions about it. Like, the Arkham community was pretty much solidified in terms of what we thought about the game, with exceptions. And of course, if you disagree with me and you're like, no, Slick, you're an idiot, you're wrong about the game, it's amazing, that's fine, it doesn't, that's totally valid. I'm glad you enjoyed the game. Honestly, I wish I enjoyed it. I would love to like the game. Unfortunately, I just couldn't, no matter how hard I tried. But on YouTube, when I would post videos or community posts, again, I really felt like the Arkham community, we were really on the same page. And then this weird thing happened whenever I would put it on Twitter. Those of you that are, community members of my channel or the Arkham community or what have you, I would get agreement from you guys. But then when it would get spread into the larger, comic book Twitterverse, not only me, but other Arkham YouTubers, we all started getting dogpiled. Everybody, K-Wing, Jay, Salvage, myself. We were just getting Irogen. We were just getting dogpiled. Just absolutely obliterated on Twitter. And it was such a weird thing because it was like, to me, it was so obvious. What I was pointing out and what you all were saying in the comments of my videos and what we were all thinking as the Arkham community were thinking about the game, to me, it was very obvious. Like, this game was such a tremendous quality drop from Batman Arkham. And typically with a game studio, you expect to at least maintain the level of quality, maybe even go up, from game to game. I wouldn't expect a regression. I wouldn't expect not only a regression, but just falling off a cliff. Just going from making great games, Batman Arkham City, Arkham Knight, whatever, and then just making a total flop, a complete dud, like Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And I was pointing this out. This is what I was kind of saying on Twitter, even before the game came out. I was like, this game is not going to be good. I played the beta. The game's not going to be good. Was seeing gameplay trailers, was seeing narrative leak, and I was just saying again and again on Twitter, the game is not going to be good. And just getting absolutely lit up. And and now what I notice is that these people are all silent. They're gone. Like, they're no longer, when I tweet about the same things, I'm no longer getting all these people who should be like, no, you're an idiot, blah, blah, attacking me. They're all gone. They're not playing the game. There's 100 people playing it. They're not one of those 100 people, because there were thousands, tens of thousands that were tweeting me. And so what happened? What caused this, fever dream, social contagion, brain rot around this game that caused so many people to get, violent about it? Not literally violent, but, rhetorically violent and just melting down and just defending the game to no end. But then when the game came out, everybody kind of realizing, yeah, the game's shit, and then just moving. Because before the game came out, there was this huge movement of people on Twitter who were kind of saying, like, no, the game's going to be great. It's going to be great. It looks amazing, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I mean, let's be honest. It was pretty obvious from a certain point, you know? And somebody had shared, well, look here, you posted a video that you were excited of it, and it was a link from a video from 2020. Like, okay, it was 4 years ago. It was before we saw gameplay, before we saw the plot details, before we saw the looter shooter element. I mean, it's not really fair to say that I was at any point optimistic for the game. Of course, I was very early on, because when Rocksteady just said, hey, we're making a new game, of course I was optimistic. It's Rocksteady, but then reality started to manifest, and things didn't look quite as good. So, look, I don't know what happened with this game. I think that the media, the games journalism media, who I'm not a fan of, because I think that they stoke division and hatred for clicks. That's what I think that the games journalism media, what they do is they try to turn things into like you're either in this camp or this camp. And they try to pit those two camps against one another. And I think they did that successfully with Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. And so there's this weird thing that happened where it was like, if you like the game, or if you don't like the game, it's because you're like right wing, and it's like a political thing, and like it's a political reason that people are hating the game, rather than the fact the game is just ass. Like the writing is terrible. The gameplay is, the gameplay's okay, I guess. But the story's terrible. The DLC, I mean, the Joker DLC is freaking laughable. There's like no gameplay. There's no narrative at all. There's no replayability. It's a bland looter shooter, copy and paste. It is so uninnovative and bland. And so, these are the reasons the game's not good. The writing's terrible. The game has no replay value. It's a looter shooter, which is a tired genre that we need to retire. The single player story was not nearly as compelling, and creatively, it was just creatively bankrupt compared to something like the Arkham games. And so that's why the game was panned, because it was a huge quality drop off from Arkham Knight to this game. But the game journalism media started to pit people against one another. And that's what I really think happened, is like Kotaku and all these stupid websites started writing these articles of like, behind the sinister movement to take down Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, the hate-filled rip-up. And I just, I don't even see how anything about this has to do with politics. I mean, the game is just ass. Like, what do I have to say besides the obvious? And this is what I was pointing out on Twitter. It's like, hey, this game's going to be ass. Like, that's basically my tweets leading up to the game. And I was just trying to level expectations, honestly. I really was, just because, of course, all of us were so excited. And so people just reacted violently to this, and they were just freaking out and losing their mind. And, I pointed out that Sweet Baby Inc. is not very good. They're not a great writing studio. The games that they've worked on tend to not be very good. There are exceptions to that. And they're a consulting agency, so they're not actually writing the game per se, but they're doing, but then people started to say, well, if you don't like Sweet Baby Inc., it's because of politics. It's just so freaking ridiculous. I mean, all this is so ridiculous. Like, it is what it is, I guess. But here's the thing, is where do we go from here? I guess my capper on that is, I feel like I've been vindicated. And so part of this video is just a little bit of a victory lap of just like, I was right. Everybody on Twitter that was attacking me was wrong. And now you admit that, because the game has 100 players. Like, hello. So clearly you agree with me now. And so I would like my apologies. Thank you. That is all. If I just get my apologies from the Twitter people. But no, it really, really was weird, because throughout my time as a YouTuber for over 10 years, I mean, I really felt like the reaction to these games were very, very sane, very level-headed, very even. Like with Arkham Knight, there's a lot of agreement. We really were like, we like this part of the story. We don't like the Batmobile stuff. Like, there was a lot of just common sense, very rational takes. And I just think everybody had brainworms with this when this game came out. At least the people that like were loving it irrationally, even though they weren't playing it, but they were like attacking the people that didn't like it. So freaking weird. Oh my god, it's like we were in the freaking upside down. That's like the only way I can describe it. It was so weird. But anyway, um, so the game is dead. The Joker DLC is horrible. There's no freaking story to it at all. And this DLC is going to be cut sooner rather than later. WB's already come out and admitted the game flopped. Okay, so like, where do we go from here? So, I mean, I think that with Wonder Woman, I'm excited to see what we have there. And I think that there are a few good games in the pipeline, but what we really have to do, in my opinion, is license more studios to make more games. Because what has become a little bit apparent to me is I don't know that Rocksteady is going to get back to where they once were, and that's the really sad thing, is that they were kind of the leaders of this. They were the ones setting the tone, and you look at a game like Batman Arkham Origins. Yes, W Montreal did a great job, but the reason they did a great job is because they had the foundation of Rocksteady. And so, there could have been a world wherein Rocksteady had made, say, a Superman game, and then W Montreal would make like a Supergirl spin-off game or whatever. Like, we could have had all these games coming out because studios like W Montreal could be utilizing the code and the infrastructure built by Rocksteady, the true, like, creative, innovative, genius studio. But now I think we can see that Rocksteady, I mean, that team doesn't really exist anymore. I don't know that they're going to get back to that place. And so where do we go from here? Where we go from here is that we need to replace Rocksteady with a new studio that's as good, right? Like, we need the equivalent of a Naughty Dog or a Rockstar or a Rocksteady from the past to come in and take the charge of creatively. And you can't build this studio from the ground up. Like, it would take too long. It's going to have to be a studio that's acquired. So WWE's going to have to go and like buy some studio like they did with Rocksteady and turn them into a powerhouse, but just not fuck it up like they did with Rocksteady, I guess. So that's really, I think, the direction to go. And, things don't look great right now in terms of, I don't think in the next year it's going to turn around, but I think in the long run things could, and we could get into a place where things turn around. I want to be optimistic. I'm trying to be as optimistic as possible, but look, I think that's really where we're at with this whole franchise, with everything about this series. Is I think that things can get better, but it's going to require WB to actively take the reins and make smart decisions, bring in the right people, hire the right people, make the right changes. And maybe it's Rocksteady. You bring in a new game director. I mean, I don't know what the solution exactly is, but what I do know is if we stay the course, things aren't going to get better. So unless we see Warner Brothers making dramatic changes, acquiring a big studio, making big staff changes at Rocksteady, and I'm not talking about firing people. I'm not talking about firing the people that are currently there. I'm talking about, like, who's the new Sefton Hill that's going to be leading that studio. It's not somebody probably who's there currently, because otherwise the game would have been great. And even Sefton Hill, I mean, Sefton Hill was there for 85% of Suicide Squad's development. And so I don't even think that he would be the right person for the job. Honestly, I really don't. I think it's going to be somebody new, somebody up and coming. Who is going to be it? They need to bring in somebody like a Kevin Feige of the DC Games universe, who's leading the franchise. And if they don't do something like that, they're not interested at all in this universe being successful, and we just have to come to terms with that. Like, if they're not making those decisions, if they're not making that investment, then we just have to accept that, we're going to get a new DC game every 10 years, and it's not going to be that good, I mean, that just kind of is what it is. So all eyes are on WB right now. All eyes are on WB, James Gunn. What are they going to do? What are the changes that they're going to make? Because they are either going to look at this game and make the right inferences about it or make the wrong inferences. So they're either going to look at Suicide Squad Kill the Justice and say, okay, no more looter shooter games. We need to go back to Arkham. Not in terms of making more Arkham games, but back to the single player story narrative gameplay format. Or they're going to look at this and say, well, the problem is we just didn't make enough looter shooter money. We didn't make enough battle pass money, so we need to have a better looter shooter game, I mean, and then we're just going to be back in the same situation over and over again. So that's kind of where we're at. But yeah, Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, it's dead. I mean, the DLC is going to get canceled soon. It has 100 players, so there's no... even if they drop the new DLC, the player count gets up to 1,500? I mean, 2,000 maybe? And now that this first DLC was garbage, people aren't even going to try to do the second one, because we know the DLC sucks. So they're either going to make big changes or they're not, and we just have to wait and see.